You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. I took a nap, by the way, right before you got here. So I'm a little bit, I tried to fall asleep. I did for a minute, and then all of a sudden, front door open, dogs barking.
Oh, no.
Ryan, here.
Oh.
No.
My bad.
No, well, I needed to wake up.
You said come at 4, and I came at 4.
Thank God you didn't come at 3.
I know. Actually, I would have rather come at 3. Coming at 4, there's a lot of traffic coming up this direction.
Now I feel bad. God makes me feel guilty. Thanks for listening. The last couple of weeks have been really great. We had Eric McCormick and Stephen Weber on the podcast last week, the week before, James Gunn, which exploded. And it was good to see. It's good to see when the podcast gets out there. I've been getting a lot of calls. And for those of you who haven't listened to the podcast and are here for Andrew McCarthy, stay tuned. But just a few words. We don't talk forever. These are short intros. But I'm very grateful if you like the podcast. By the way, the podcast. Subscribe, write a review. It truly helps the podcast. And tell someone. Say, hey, I heard this podcast. It's it's decent. And I try to bring out a lot out of each guest, whether you know them or you don't know them. And this episode with Andrew McCarthy, we talk about Walking with Sam, his new book. And I found it fascinating. A father and a son walking across Scotland or whatever, and really getting personal and in depth, just into their lives and whatever. And it got real. It's going to get real when you're doing something like that. So. And, I was always a fan of Andrew McCarthy. And I also found out he's not that much older than I am. I always felt like these guys, when I was younger, were, oh my gosh, he's pretty in pink. And he's not that much older than me, which,
Time's weird, man.
What I'm saying, Andrew, is you're not old. Hey, if you want to follow us, Ryan, tell them the handles.
At Inside of You Pod on Twitter, at Inside of You Podcast on Instagram and Facebook.
Haven't said that in a while.
I know.
And Tom Welling and Kristen Kruk, the threesome of Smallville, will be in Montreal, July 15th weekend. We're doing a Smallville Nights. We're signing autographs, pictures, all that. It's going to be a blast. My grandmother just had her 95th birthday, and I went down there and I organized the whole thing because I'm a control freak. And, it was a nice time. There were some things that weren't as smooth. Mm-hmm. I won't get into those. But, it made me sad that she's 95. Of course, her memory's not going to be great, but I didn't realize it would go that fast. Mm-hmm. And in the last 3 to 6 months, I showed her a video of the trip after her big birthday night, and brought her to tears. But then the next morning when I said, did you love the video? She didn't know what I was talking about. And I showed her again, like she had seen it the first time. So it's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And so I told my uncle, do me a favor, on her refrigerator, just put call Mikey with a picture of me and my phone number, your grandson. And he wouldn't put your favorite grandson because his 2 kids would be upset with that. But he did put your grandson. So I got a call from her today. So I think maybe it works. Keep that, it's on her fridge. If she's going to the fridge.
That's good.
You know what else? My cousin sent me a picture of the inside of her refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And it had like Ensure, for mm-hmm. the old people drink. Mm-hmm. I think other people take that too. Mm-hmm. But it had a glass of wine covered up with plastic, like saran wrap or whatever. And it was like, she drinks the cheapest, shittiest freaking wine, and she's preserving it. She
just like a little bit at a time.
She doesn't want to waste it.
Oh God.
So anyway, so what else? The band, we just had a concert, Sunspin. We're going to be playing those monthly. So go to stageit.com or go to sunspin.com, get a ticket. We have Zooms, other stuff. You could also get a Zoom with me and Rob, my guitarist, and chat with us. The Inside You online store has a lot of cool stuff. This guy, Santiago, where in the hell is...
Santiago M?
No, something. Carmen Sandiego.
Well, I know that.
That's what I was asking you for.
But then the second I said it, I realized that the Santiago is not where the San Diego is. And it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I regret it now.
Yeah, you ruined it. You ruined the moment. Damn. Anyway, these little busts, the Smallville busts. They're badass. He made boxes for them. Get them. There's only 4 available. So if you want those, there's also Lex Luthor statues, Funkos, and tons of stuff. I want to thank the Funko store. I went to the Funko store in Hollywood. I did an interview, which is coming out soon. And I brought a couple friends, and they let us shop and get as many Funkos as we wanted. Funko that shit, man. It was awesome. I love Funko. Thank you to everyone there. Tracy, thanks for hooking it all up. And I got a lot of cool stuff. If you haven't been, go to the Funko store in Hollywood Boulevard. It will blow your mind. It's like Disney World.
I didn't know there was one.
Dude, it will blow your mind. I'll take you. Want to go?
Sure.
It's great. So thanks there. And a few thank yous to the nonprofits that I work with, foodonfoot.org for homeless, Echoes of Hope for foster youth, the Ronald McDonald House, the Animal Rescue Mission. If you want to rescue animals, get a hold of the Animal Rescue Mission on Instagram or whatever. Ask for Shira. Say I sent you. And all that jazz. And thanks for listening to Talkville. We're going to be coming back soon with new episodes, season 3. Very exciting, Ryan.
Ooh.
It's going to be a good season. So, and thanks mostly to the patrons who support these podcasts, because I could not do these podcasts without you. Thanks for the support and the love. And check out patreon.com/insideofyou or /Talkville and become a patron member today. All right. Without further ado, let's get into this. Let's get so much to talk about with Andrew McCarthy. It was a lot of fun, and we get into it. So let's get inside of Andrew McCarthy. It's my point of view. You're listening to Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum. Inside of You with Michael Rosenbaum was not recorded in front of a live studio audience.
It's a great setup.
Thanks. I noticed you were looking at it. Now, is that sarcasm?
No.
Because
it's great.
What are you into?
What do you mean?
I mean, you're obviously into travel. You're obviously into writing and directing and all these other things and acting. But do you have any do you keep things? Do you keep posters?
No. I was actually more talking about your technical setup, not your not your gag.
Not my freak show?
No, not your freak show. That I didn't even really notice. No, I was looking more the technical setup. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I had somebody come and set this up, and I'm always scared that the camera's going to just go. And I'm like, oh shit, what camera do I get? Okay, the Lumix, I got to order this and we got to hook it up. I shouldn't worry about that, should I, Ryan? Okay, thank you. Well, you got so much going on. First of all, your agent or your publicist sent me that the book is now, your new book is on the New York Times bestseller list. And this just happened?
Yeah, yesterday, yeah. So that's always
Walking with Sam.
Yeah. And that's always a relief.
What do you mean it's always a relief? So you've had other books, the memoirs, The Brat was also bestseller?
Yeah. So, which is great. No, it's thrilling because it is the only way that, the broad way that people keep score. If you can claim it's a New York Times bestseller, then you can claim success.
Oh, it's real.
Yeah.
It's like my dad. It's like, it's an independent movie. Oh, so it's not a real movie.
Yeah.
No,
and it's also when you've been out there shamelessly promoting it like I have, if it doesn't do something, you kind of go, oh, you've been really selling there and they weren't buying, huh? So anyway, it's wonderful and exciting and a relief.
My biggest fear is, some people said write a book, and I'm like, no one cares about me. I mean, my listeners may be like what I taught, but okay, so how many people buy my book? Because I have some great stories, starting from childhood to craziness to getting to Hollywood and getting mixed up with the wrong crowd and all that stuff in between, living with Carrie Fisher. It would be a chapter, and not sexually. But I don't think, my fear is you've been there. You were for God's sake, there are the headphones that you want to wear.
All right.
But you've done so much. People know who you are.
They think they do anyway. Yeah. Which is good. That has its pluses and minuses. Yeah. I mean, I get on the Today Show or whatever, or the Good Morning America to talk about my new book because I was in movies 30 years ago. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I have that sort of platform, if you will. So I've become this sort of cultural touchstone for a generation of people.
But normally, when someone comes on the podcast, they want to promote something. I'm like, it's not that I'm like, oh, fuck, all right. I'm like, all right, we'll talk about it, but that's not really what the podcast is about. But your book is what the podcast is. because walking with Sam is sort of like a journey with your son, right?
Yeah.
Across a country, 500 miles.
Yeah.
And like when I hear that you open up about your life to your son, it's just so foreign to me and so beautiful that, you know, I didn't know anything about my father. In fact, I remember calling him up one time, and he wasn't the kind of guy. I'm sure you're very close. You're very close with your son, where you're like, "I love you, son. I'm proud of you," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, you're hesitant.
No, but I mean, sure. I hope I don't say that. Yes, I am. Yeah. But go on, finish.
No, but I just think that I remember I was 20 something, early 20s, and I was just like, I never smoked, I never drank, I never did drugs. It was always very, very critical, very hard on me. And I went to his dentist, and I shouldn't have gone to his dentist because it was this guy out in Long Island.
Was Laurence Olivier?
No. Why? What was that about?
No, well, in Marathon Man, he's the dentist, you know. Anyway.
Yes. I remember. The Dustin Hoffman
Is it
thing.
safe?
Yes.
Is it safe?
You do a lot of impressions?
No, that was it.
That's it.
That was it, yeah.
But I went out to his dentist, and he was a good dentist, but his dental place was in his house in Long Island. So it was called Fight Tooth Decay with Dr. J. And I went in there, and he was this kind of...
Dude, what were you thinking? That should have been your first clue.
I had no money, and this guy was going to take care of me. And I was like, what was my dad like? Oh, your dad, your dad was... He was, you know, I go, did he ever do drugs? Did he do drugs? I think he invented Coke. I think and all this stuff came out. And women. And I'm like, what? Whoa. And I call my dad. I go, I don't fucking know you. You've lied to me all these years. He's like, it's like, what do you want to hear? Is this what do you want to know? I'll tell you what you want to know. I go, did you do drugs? Yeah, I did a lot of drugs. It got to that point where like, yeah, did you have sex with other girls than mom? He goes, what are you fucking kidding? Of course. Yes. I'm like, okay. And I just started hammering him with these questions, and he answered them, but I still to this day, I don't know my real father. I mean, I know my biological father.
Got it, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. My dad's just very, maybe it's just old school. It's old school where he doesn't want me to get inside, but I get inside. But I'd like to know more about my father. I'd like to know the real story and the things that he went through.
Why?
And because when I looked at what your book's about, it made me think, you know, wow, his son, Sam, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, unless you're walking with somebody else and Sam, that he's really getting to know his dad and really seeing the things that hurt him and the mistakes he made. And like, it seems like it was such an honest journey. Just tell me about that.
Well, you're talking about your dad. You know, when I left home at 17 and my relationship in essence ended with my dad right then. You know, my dad was a very volatile guy, and I was terrified of him. So I left home, and we had no real relationship through the rest of his life. I mean, he died, I guess, just like 6 or 7 years ago. And I mean, I saw him probably a dozen times in all those years. And my dad, when I was young and successful, my dad, when I was first in the movies, you know, my fortunes were rising as my dad's fortunes were falling emotionally and financially. And so my dad used to come to me for money, which I found that really twisted me up because I gave it to him. You know, when my dad first, you know, they go, if I don't get, you know, $50K, I'm going to jump off a roof. I'm like, okay, here's $50K. You know what I mean? Until finally that went on for a number of years. And then I finally, you know, he said, I'm going to jump off a bridge if I don't get whatever. And I said, well, you know what? You're just like a heroin junkie, and I'm not giving you any more heroin to jump off the bridge. And that pretty much ended our relationship. And for decades, really. And I think he regretted that later. But it really, that was difficult because when I needed, when I was a young kid and being successful in that way that I was when I was in these movies when I was young in my early 20s, I would have, you know, welcomed some kind of backup. And I felt like I was being undercut as opposed to being backed up, you know, or supported. So
Inside of You is brought to you by Harry's Razors. Why did I not know about these guys when I was shaving my head on Smallville and getting nicked in my head every time they'd shave me? I love Harry's. Harry's sends me the razors every month. And these are just better razors. You know, you go to the grocery store and you pay a fortune. These are way cheaper. They're way better. They have other products. shaving creams and lotions. These guys are awesome. They have these starter sets that are $13 value for just $3 at harrys.com/inside. You get a 5-blade German engineered razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, travel cover. I mean, scheduling delivery refills as little as $2, half of what you pay for other blades. It's pretty fantastic. Harry's. How did I never hear about Harry's? Because my back's hairy and I could use Harry's to shave it.
You could.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Harry for Harry's. No, it's a good product. I've used Harry's.
Yeah, I just think it's phenomenal. I mean, these are sleek, ergonomical, weighted handles that look great in your bathroom. Give you precise control with each swipe. When I say weighted, it's like the top. It almost feels like it's doing it for you. You know, you put it on your skin and just I'm gonna make a sound. Just a smooth sound against your face. They really are wonderful. And for someone who's shaved their head for so many years, as Lex Luthor, I would know this. You want the best shave. No matter why you shave, Harry's has you covered for the best shave of your life at a price you'll love. From their legendary high-quality razors to skin products like exfoliating face wash and hydrating lotion, Harry's gives you a premium shave without the premium price tag. Get better quality and a better price than other razors when you get Harry's delivered right to your door.
Get your best shave ever this summer with Harry's razors and skincare products.
Get a $13 starter set for just $3 at harrys.com/inside. That's harrys.com/inside for a $3 starter set. Harry's. Inside of You is brought to you by Neurohacker Qualia Senolytic. This stuff works. I'm saying it right now. I'm saying it clear. I've said it before. This is a product that I didn't know they were a sponsor, and I was getting them thinking I'm always on Amazon or whatever, and I probably ordered it, and I started taking it. I noticed more clarity. I noticed that I was thinking straighter. Can you say that? Thinking straighter?
Yeah, straight, like in a straight line.
Thank
Clearer.
you, Ryan.
Yes.
And then I realized, wait a minute, this is our sponsor. Oh, this is great. I use this product. It's not a hard sell for me. It's just, it's easy to talk about. Look, our sponsor, Neurohacker, packs 7 of the most science-backed senolytic ingredients into one formula called Qualia Senolytic, and you can take it in just 2 days a month to help you achieve fast, noticeable benefits for a much better aging process. That's that is the universe, the world we live in. As people want to live longer, they want to. My grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's. My grandmother's, very forgetful. If in the early days or early ages, you can start doing things for your mind, exercising the mind, because most people exercise their bodies and this and that. But if you could take something that, helps your mind, that's, in my opinion, this is the stuff that helps me. It helps me, and I urge you to try it because you won't be sorry.
The formula is non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, and the ingredients are meant to complement one another, factoring in the combined effect of all ingredients together.
Did you say non-GMO?
I did say non-GMO.
Did you say gluten-free?
I did.
And vegan?
Uh-huh.
You're speaking to the minds of a lot of people right now, Ryan. Look,
what I do.
This stuff is also backed, all right? It's backed by a 100-day money-back guarantee. This is what I love. They're so confident that if you don't like it for almost 3 months, well, you return it. Try Qualia Senolytic from Neurohacker at no financial risk and decide for yourself. After 3 months, I think you're going to notice something. If you're in your late 20s or older, adding Neurohacker's Qualia Senolytic to your diet can play a crucial role in combating negative aging symptoms. Go to neurohacker.com/inside for up to 50% off Qualia Senolytic. And as a listener of Inside of You, use code INSIDE at checkout for an extra 15% off your first purchase.
That's neurohacker.com/inside to try Qualia Senolytic with code INSIDE and start aging on your terms.
These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. The products and statements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Anyway, when my dad was dying, I went to, my wife said, to her credit, she goes, "You need to go see your dad." I was like, "Oh, You're right. And so I went to my dad as he was dying, and we didn't really, we didn't solve anything, but we just dropped it. I dropped it, and I was able to be there with him when he was dying. And that was a beautiful thing. And there was love there that remained that I hadn't felt. And, all I'd felt was fear and then anger and resentment at him for undermining, not seeing me, And so anyway, so when you talk about your dad like that, I didn't know really anything about. The one story I heard about my dad once, when his mom was put into an old, a home.
Convalescent or?
Yeah, that kind of, for an old person. And he went and he kind of kidnapped her because he was so upset by her being locked up. So he went and he kidnapped her for a day. He didn't have any plan. He just felt some need to act, or you know what I mean? So he just took her and he went to a motel and they were staying there. And his older brother, and my dad's at this point in his, 60s or something, 50s. And his older brother came and said, basically had this fight with my older brother was there to see this. And his older brother, they stood in the parking lot arguing, these two brothers, two grown men. And my dad's older brother slapped him upside the head like you would a young sibling when you're kids. And I knew in that instant, when my brother told me that story, I was like, oh, I instantly forgave my dad so much because that's where he came from and that's all he knew. Like you were saying, old school. They're a different generation of whatever, But anyway, so I didn't want that with my son. To bring it back to kind of your question, I didn't. Yeah. I wanted, my son to. That's the last thing I want. That's probably the biggest regret of my life in a certain way. It couldn't have been other with my father, but I really regretted that lack there, and I've always felt that lack. When my kids, I always say I want to be like a backstop in little league. So if I'm like, you go out in the world, and when you turn around, I'm going to be here. But you go out there. And, whenever I turned around when I was young, I just felt somebody poaching me or trying to stab me in the back, not there to sort of go, you know what I mean? And it's fine. It's just the way life was. And it was fun. And it helped me in many ways to be, resilient, whatever. I didn't even really notice it until years later when I've begun, enough therapy. But, and it was fun. And I don't mind it, although I just don't want my kids to have that. I'm sure I'll screw them up in other ways, but yes. I wanted them to always know that like their dad's right there behind them. And so anyway, that's why I asked my son.
That's incredible. And you say that you weren't really affected. You were resilient. You were obviously later on you got therapy.
I'm being positive about it. I mean, but I mean, and also it does those things. You can either choose to view these things as something terrible that happened and you're a victim of this person and they're easy to blame. Or it's like, dude, this is what your life is. And there are many people have, and like, okay, so it's forced you to do this and that and adjust in certain ways. And it's, I'm all good with that.
Right.
I think.
But what about validation? Did you ever feel like you needed validation because you didn't get it from your father?
He validated. My dad loved me, and he was proud of me. He used to stop people on the street, and I had people stop me on the street when I was much younger and go, "I met your dad." I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah." I was crossing the street waiting at a red light, and he just said, "Hey, do you know Andrew McCarthy?" He said, "That's my son." And so, like, my dad used to sort of weird, if they were the right demo, he would stop them, and. Which I found very sad in a certain way. I did. That broke my heart for him. That really made me sad. I was first humiliated by it and angered by it when I was young, and then it made me very sad for him later. But I mean, I know my dad was proud of me and, all that stuff, but in his way.
Yeah. It's weird because sometimes people ask me this question and then I'll go, huh? And the question is, do you think your parents love you and they're so trying to be in your life a little bit more because you've had success, because you have maybe a little money, and so did you ever have to deal with that where there's like your father, you say he disappeared, but then when you started having the success, he would see people in the street, he'd say, "That's my son, he was all this." Did you think, okay, but what if I wasn't successful? Did that ever haunt you? Like, is he doing it because he really?
Well, I think success, my public success young, really harmed my relationships in my family, very much so. I was not the star of the family growing up. You know what I mean? My brother, I have three brothers, two older, one younger, and my oldest brother was like smart and, and the other one was the jock, and I was like the sensitive kid or something, but I was not the star of the family, and when I became one in a public way at 21, 22 years old, that sort of blew up my household. Or my parents got divorced around that time anyway, so they were going through their own thing, but it sort of blew up my relationships with my brothers, because they're still in their mid-20s trying to figure out who they are, and suddenly their little brother is like some movie star, and you know what I mean? I think that was difficult for them to navigate. And so I found the opposite with success in my family. And so it made me, because of my temperament, just sort of flee that and go, oh, this isn't a safe place. I'm and I'm a loner a bit anyway. So I kind of, the combination of that and with feeling slightly poached by them made me just flee. And I had a lot of people early on ask me for money and things when I was young, and family members too. And invariably you give it to them at the beginning until you realize that whoever you give money to, hate you for it. Because you're basically saying, I'll do for you what I see you can't do for yourself. And people hate you for that. And so everyone who I tried to help financially resented me for it. So I stopped, doing that.
I still enable. I still do it. I'm much better at it now, but it angers me that I do it. My business.
But why do you do it?
Because I don't want to feel guilty when they die.
Uh-huh. That doesn't add up. that math, it's 2 and 2 is like 5.
I want to say that, hey, I really did everything I could, and I was really a good brother or a good son or a good whatever. But it gets to a point where it's like, can't you cut it off and still say you did that because you did that for so long? It's like, when does it end? And you came to a point where you cut it off with your dad. I haven't had. My father doesn't need money, but like someone in my family, they do. But they don't. They have always sort of, been the victim. They've always sort of like, I need this, I can't do this. They're married. They have, it doesn't make sense, but I keep helping out because I do love them and I want them to be happy. I don't want them to be destitute. And maybe there's an ego thing. Maybe there's,
of course there is.
Maybe there's sort of like, if I let that happen, and then all of a sudden, they can't afford, then all of a sudden the town where I grew up in, they're like, your family, you have money. Why aren't you helping them? Maybe there's that sort of like, I care about what other people think.
Well, of course. Yeah, but also, there's
therapy
a sense
for
of,
me. Andrew, this is therapy for me.
So it's playing big shot too for, I give you money. So I'm empowered. I have power over you now.
I don't want it. I really don't. I don't want to have that power. I just want them to be happy and do whatever they can to make ends meet and do the things that I think are simple steps into doing that. Because, I have friends that, I know that if I didn't have a job, I would go get a job. If I didn't have money, I would go figure out how to make money. These are certain things that were ingrained in me that I always knew. And it's easy to say now when you're doing well, but I know that. And a lot of people are like that. They're like, hey, I'll work at McDonald's. I'll work at wherever. But maybe there's pride in whatever, and they don't want to do that.
For sure. When my dad was wanting money, I always used to say, I'd be proud of your dad if you were a bag person in the checkout, at the supermarket. But, easy for me to say.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was that would have been the truth, but he wasn't being able to do that. And I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. I wouldn't want to be bagging in the supermarket either. Hey, you're that guy from Mannequin. What are you doing putting my groceries in? You know what I mean? So I get that.
Lastly about that, because I really want to talk, there's so much to talk about, but, this is sort of the center. This is the kind of what I want to, the book is, I can't wait to read this book because I feel like I need it. I need to read this book, as you can tell when I'm telling you these stories. What didn't you tell your son? Like, what things were you like, I'm not going there with you?
Well, that's an interesting thing, because there was one day, that's one of the things I still wrangle with my kids, because I don't need to be their buddy or their pal. I want to be their father, and but I want to have an adult relationship with them. And since I didn't have one with my father, I have no real template for that, which is why one of the reasons we walked across Spain together. I thought, because it was I did it 25 years earlier, and it was a profound thing for me. So I wanted to thought it might be helpful in rewriting my son and I's dynamic. But I totally then just forgot your question.
No, it was just like the things that you didn't say to your son.
Oh, yeah. So one day Sam said, we're about halfway through the walk, and Sam just turned to me and goes, "How are you, Dad?" And he was asking me, and I don't recall him ever asking me that before, and he was asking, wanting to know. And I was at that moment, in those previous 15 minutes, I'd been, fretting about money, been worrying about work, been, thinking stuff about my wife, thinking, in a worrisome, fretful mode. And I said to him, "I'm good, Sam, I'm good." And it was a real missed opportunity to sort of share who I am with my kid, particularly since I'm saying that's what I wanted to do, for him to see me more, But, I remember when I was young, I had, this never left me. My mother at times she'd have problems with my dad, and she would be very upset. And I would come in and she would say, "Oh, a child should never see their mother cry." And I'm like, "No, Mom, tell me," because I wanted to be close to my mom naturally, and she was suffering. So I would go into her and she would tell me stuff that, it was emotionally what was happening to her at the time, but I interpreted with my young ears as sort of settled fact of that this is what she felt, when that was just a transitory mood. But I took that deep as though this is what she believes. And there's a big difference, and as a young person, I wasn't able to separate those two, particularly when it's your mom doing that. So I've said, "Oh, I don't want to do that with my kids." And yet, how am I going to, if I want him to share with me, himself with me, I have to do that too. I have to model that or meet him there or lead him there. So I still find that a challenging thing at times to do.
Yeah. Did you, is that in the book where you didn't say it? You talk about not
saying it? Yeah, that is in the book. Yeah, where I talk about what was going on, because it was such an odd moment too, because it caught me so off guard. And I was so in a space of, and kids know everything, they see right through everything. I was such in a space of worry in that moment where I wasn't often on the trip, but for whatever reason, that morning I was in that space, where we can get. But to not share that with them, even to just say, it'll pass, it's no big deal, but I'm just really worried about money. I just, because money's, blah, blah, and talk to him about it. Like, it was a missed opportunity on my part.
Is that something you would talk about with anybody, or not anybody, but with any
only
person?
You.
Only me. Only
well,
you.
It is an interesting thing about how, people often, and it's in writing too, people often, I read that Edward R. Murrow, the newscaster, told a stranger on the plane next to him that he had cancer, and he'd never told any of his family at that point. You know what I mean? There's something about telling strangers things that's interesting. It's like when you write, I'll often write things that my 16-year-old daughter asked me something about my past, and Sam said to her, "If you want to know Dad, you should read his books." Because I'll write things, and it's very true. That goes to what we were just talking about. And also, I'll be much more forthcoming on a page than I will be generally in life with people, even people I love. And I always think, and I'm not the only one, lots of people talk about how that's the case. And I think that's really interesting how we do that and why we do that. And
that's why they say write what you know, right?
Yeah, I guess so. And just write the truth.
Right, because you write the truth, right?
I remember writing the first book I was writing, and it was a travel memoir, but really it was about intimacy. And I remember writing a paragraph going, "Oh my God, this can never be in the book." And I'm typing away, and this could never, there's no way.
I'm embarrassed.
And this is like way too revealing.
Yeah.
And then I finish and I read it and I go, well, there's no chapter without that paragraph. That's the whole thing. And, because all you're trying to do is, they're just feelings. Everybody's got them. And you're just with writing, you're just trying to create a connection with the reader so that they're nodding their head, whether they sit alone in their bed at night with you, and they're nodding their head and kind of go, "Yeah, that's how I feel. That's how I feel." And then you got something.
Yeah. Have you ever, are you one of the, I had never heard my dad cry until he lost his daughter, my half sister, who passed away a few years ago. And talk about shell-shocked. Talk about, and it was sort of expected throughout the years. She had the trisomy chromosomal thing going on for years, and she was always in the hospital. I mean, she lived in the hospital, Children's Hospital, and he was dealing with this a long time. And then when she passed, I called him, and I couldn't even understand him. It was like a different human being. I've never heard that kind of cry. He was so hurt, and I just didn't know what even to do. I was emotional. I just said, I love you. I'm here for you. And it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. It's not something I think you want to see your father. There's some people who are like, oh, my daddy's always crying. Oh, he's everything. He watches this, he cries.
I think that's one of the greatest things we can do for our kids is show them our frailty. You know what I mean? And we don't want to do that as dads. Of course, we're strong, we're this, we're that, and we got it sorted out. And, but I think, there's a moment on the walk when we were walking and I tripped and I fell and I almost crashed into this thing that would have really been a problem. And I hit hard, and I normally bounce right back up if I fall because I'm so embarrassed that I just, oh, no, I'm fine, But I didn't bounce back up, and I just fell, and it's a much lighter thing than what you're talking about, obviously. But the metaphor of it's the same. It's I hit the ground, and I stayed there, and my son was shocked at this because I'm pretty agile in that, and he helped me, and I realized just let him help you. Let him help you. It's important for him to see that part of me. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things I have to teach is that, like my mom now is not, she's getting dementia and she's suffering, and like, you got to go help them. And that's, anyway. And so that's part of life. That's part of the cycle of what happens. And so, for you to say that's an important thing for your dad for you to get to experience that with your dad. You know what I mean? That it's not just the other way. It's it's a two-way street, which it takes wanting that too.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like with me, he knows I have a podcast, but he doesn't know what I talk about, how I really open up, and he probably would be, he'd probably be pissed off sometimes if I'm, talking about it, but like, I don't talk about him. Like, I just talk about my feelings, life. And, he doesn't know that. I mean, I think he knows I went to therapy but it's almost like he doesn't want to talk about that stuff. He doesn't go to therapy. He never would. I remember when he lost his daughter, I said, you need to go to therapy. He's like, why? You think anybody knows what I'm going through? I go, yes, I do. I think people lose their whole families on planes. I think people lose their daughters and their sons and everything. This happens to a lot of people, unfortunately. And if you talk to people and sit in a circle with some people, he's, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to tap into his emotions. He doesn't want to, and he never will. That's just what it is. But so I never feel like I can talk about any of that stuff because there's no reason to. It would just be like, oh, okay, yeah, sorry to hear that. Anyway, how the Mets doing?
But that's I used to dismiss all that kind of sport jargon, but there's a certain intimacy that comes with that, and if that's the way people can funnel it, then so be it.
Yeah.
And it's also generational, I think, to some degree.
Sure.
But it's also not. There are guys that are like that. I mean, and
Did you ever think, growing up, did you have a confidence to you? Were you popular? That all of a sudden you'd be this icon who was doing these major motion pictures, part of the Brat Pack, which to me is it's probably the coolest thing that could ever happen to someone. I'm sorry. There's only 6 people that could say they're part of the Brat Pack, I think, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I'm just saying, did you ever imagine, like, I'm going to be famous one day?
No, I was not a wildly confident kid at all in any kind of way. No, I just sort of, when all that happened, it was head spinning. And, but you forget now the Brat Pack is this wonderfully iconic term spoken with affection and reverence for this moment in pop culture. And for a certain generation, I and other members of the Brat Pack are the avatar of their youth, and so it's looked at with these rose-colored memories because that's the moment in life when people are just cusping life, when they're 20, 21, when they're, the life is a blank slate to be written upon, and it's get out of the way, world, here I come, and it's just a thrilling, exciting moment, and I represent that, and other actors do too, represent that to a certain demographic of a certain generation, but that was not the case at the Brat Pack when it came out. The term was coined in 1985 in a New York Magazine article by a guy who was writing an article on Emilio Estevez and turned off to him and didn't like him and was jealous of him, I'd say, because he was also a young journalist. And so he wrote this scathing article about all these young actors and called them the Brat Pack.
It wasn't Canby, was it?
No, it wasn't. A guy named David Blum. Oh. Vincent Canby, he was another story. But anyway, so it was a really negative, pejorative thing, and we fucking hated it. And we thought, who wants to be called a brat? Who wants to be in a pack? It adversely affected our careers because we were we were now perceived as this. All you ever want in life is to be seen, right? See me. See who I am. That's what your whole thing is about. This is who I am. See me. And in the instant the Brat Pack label came out, it was like something. We were 180, it turned hard, and we were members of the Brat Pack, and I was unseen for and that it's taken, me decades and centuries to have that go 180 degrees, to embrace it as this beautiful thing, which it is now. But we forget that it wasn't at the beginning. And, I was like, Martin Scorsese's not going to call up anybody in the Brat Pack, and he never did. So, so it's been a long journey. And I know for me and I know the other people as well, to sort of pivot through that to now where it's landed for me, which is that it's a sort of this beautiful thing to represent that for that generation of people. But that wasn't the case. And it was largely just that notion of, I felt unseen suddenly. Here I was just starting life, just starting my career. Okay, here I come. And then bam, no, you're labeled, you're pigeonholed in this thing, and this is what you are.
From one article,
which is amazing, in our culture now with all the different things. Yeah. It was one article, 1 week in New York, and within days, the country, because it was such a good phrase. Brat Pack, boom. Yeah, I mean, you don't forget it. It's there. It's indelible. And and it was also a cultural shift happening when young youth took over pop
rebellious
culture. Well, no, but just youth took. I mean, the movies were not about kids up to that point, really. And then they discovered in the early '80s, my God, these kids go to the movies 5, 6, 7 times. Grown-ups go once. Let's make movies for kids. And we were right there at the right place at the right time. And so then John Hughes comes along and says, oh, wait, young kids' emotions should be taken seriously. And, because when you're 17, 18, you fall in love for the first time, you are the first person to ever be in love, right? And
yes.
And that first heartbreak is the first heartbreak ever. Oh. And the magnitude of it, and John Hughes knew that and honored that. And so kids saw that and went, that's me, and that's why the next generation, those women have shown their daughters, and their daughters looking at that movie and going, Pretty in Pink, and going, the hairdos are funny, but that's me,
Yeah.
And so that's why they live on in that way. And to sort of, for me to come to represent that's a beautiful thing. But I always not always. But
I never looked at it like that.
No.
But now I hear you, I'm like, of course. Did you? That's so interesting. It's like, yeah, you didn't realize the impact it had on you guys. It sounds so cool now, and to everybody on the outside looking in, I want to be the Brat Pack. But I could see how it was just sort of like, fuck, I'm more than that.
Yeah, or I'm other than that. I am more than, that's, yeah. And for someone like me, I was very much a solitary person, a loner a bit. So to be slumped in with all these guys who I liked fine, but I didn't know them. I don't think I ever went out socially with any of them ever.
Really? So you were on these movies, on these huge movies.
Well, I lived in New York, and so I would just, whatever. But
did you get close with anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I liked them, but I mean, no.
But you never said,
I never stayed in touch with any of them. No.
Yeah, because I saw the article yesterday that came out, or the other day, about Emilio Estevez. You hadn't seen him in 30 years.
Yeah, I hadn't seen any of them. I made a documentary recently about this because I wrote a book a few years ago about my time then, my life then, and because I was like, it was a rock I never looked under, and so I decided to look under it, and that's how I came to the position that I've sort of was just talking about, how I've come to realize what a beautiful thing it is, and what I'm blessed in that way, really, truly. And then, but I didn't feel that way, and so I thought that that was a seismic event in my life, the Brat Pack. What was it like for everyone else? Because I know it was for them too, because we were in the same boat. We're members of a club we didn't ask to join, and we can just look at each other and kind of go, hey, dude. And we just know. And so I went back and talked to everybody who Emilio hadn't seen in 30 years. Rob hadn't seen in 30 years. To me, any Ali Sheedy, I hadn't seen any of them. And to just get their take on it. And it was really interesting.
Yeah. I just, do you think, if you look back, do you think that they were probably like, he's doing his own thing. He's too good for us while we're all partying and getting together.
They're into their own thing. You know what I mean? Everyone's so self-centered. No one's thinking about anybody else, but I also was, I was so afraid really. Then that manifested as a sort of aloofness when I was just afraid, so. Yeah. And so, yes, and I was always baffled by people saying, oh, you're arrogant, you're aloof. And I'm like, really? I'm just so fucking scared here,
Isn't that something? Yeah.
So I always felt sort of unseen in that regard,
Was there anybody that you could recall on set that you worked with where you're like, female that you were like, gosh, I should have stayed in touch with her, or I should have asked her out, or I should have, I was really attracted to this person and I just dropped the ball there. I didn't take a chance.
Well, I was better at it with women than I was with just friendship because, women, then you could, you're thinking in your 20s, you're thinking sex. So that gives a little more motivation than friendship. So Emilio, so with that regard, I sort of went for things a little more than I might have if it was just friendship involved.
Did you always love acting, or was it something that you were good at, you were getting roles, you were doing it? Because I know you do Broadway, right?
I did, yeah.
You did Broadway, so you obviously loved theater. I
did, yeah. No, I wanted to. That's what I thought I would be, was a theater actor. It never occurred to me I'd be in the movies, I mean, when I was 15 years old, I was cut from the high school basketball team, and my mother said, try out for the school play. And I'm like, I don't want to be in the play. I want to be the point guard, so, but I did. And I was cast as the Artful Dodger in Oliver. And when I walked out on stage at 15, my life changed. It was like Tennessee Williams, the playwright, has a line up talking about love. He says, it's as if a room that had always been half in shadow is suddenly in the light. And that's how I felt. The minute I walked on stage, I went, oh my God, there I am. There I am. And I knew it was important because I told no one. I knew it was like a little flame flicker that had lit. And if anybody could have walked by and blown it out. You know what I mean? Like when I eventually told my father I wanted to be an actor and go to college for acting, he said, no son of mine's going to be a fucking thespian, so.
Well, yeah, I mean,
so maybe I was right not to bring it up earlier, but by that point I knew what I was doing and I didn't care what anybody said and I was going to go do it. I had no idea how. I had the wonderful gift of youth, which is you don't know things are impossible. So.
That's so true.
Yeah. And so then, it happened for me very quickly, although it doesn't feel quick at the time when you're young and stuff. But
what is that? I was just talking about this, about ambition, and it's like I remember being in college and like getting cast in the lead roles, and all the heads of the department were like, "You're ready. You need to go to New York." And this guy, this actor Leo Burmester, who came into town, and we all gave monologues, and he took me aside and said, you got it. You have what it takes. You need to do this. It's in your heart, blah. And all the confidence then was just, I was like, I let's go. And I remember people were like, the percentage. I go, there's no percentage of actors. Here's the thing. I didn't ever think for a second that I wasn't going to beat the odds. I know that what I'm doing is I'm going to make it. I swear to God, I thought that. And what happens is life happens and you start to do things. And if you don't have this solid foundation, like I said, and everything's sort of, you need to be validated and you're great. Eventually there comes a time where you're like, I felt like fear got in the way and ambition kind of took a step aside. I felt like I never have that ambition like I had, that energy that just like, I'm going for it. I felt like that has been sort of lost. If not lost, it's, there's remnants, but it's sort of, it's not like it was. Do you feel like that happened with you at all?
Sure. And once you experience failure, then you can't forget that. And failure you go, whoa, okay. So then there's doubt. And then in that doubt creeps in fears and all those anxieties and all those kind of things, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
I mean, has that happened? Like, were you confident on sets when you were acting? Were you enjoying it? Were you loving being on set and acting?
I love being on sets. I have to say, I do love being on set. I direct a lot of TV now, and I always say that TV.
Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, and I said, directing is stressful, but acting creates anxiety. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I find acting, so. But I love being on a set. I sort of was most at home on a set in many ways. And I've been on sets since I'm 18 years old. And so I understand that world. I'm never bored on a set. People talk about boring now. I'm never bored on a set.
Wow.
I find it just very interesting.
Is it weird directing someone who you probably were friends with back in the day, like James Spader in Blacklist?
No, I mean, James is such a wonderful and peculiar guy anyway. I mean, he's his own beast, but, and I just know him so long, I have a shorthand with him, so it's nice. But no, I have every actor neuroses there is, so it's easy for me to talk to actors, because I just understand what they're doing. So.
Yeah. Do you ever have you ever worked with someone where you're like, I cannot stand working with this person. I hate it. I have to get out of here. I don't want to do it. I'm not comfortable. My craft isn't coming through because I'm thinking too much now or whatever.
Well, sure. I've had from acting and directing. You say, sure, there are people just like, oh my, I'm directing somebody. I'm like, this guy's terrible. How much money is he making every week? You know what I mean?
And you have to make him look good.
Yeah, and that's your job. So, yeah, of course. I mean, TV directing, that's a whole nother topic, but it's ultimately not a very satisfying job.
Why is that?
Well, you're servicing someone. TV is a writer's medium, right? So you're servicing someone else's vision. And so if you're going to work that hard, ultimately, it's great. Like I always call it, TV directing like going to director gym. Like this week you're doing chest, next week you're doing arms because like shooting in different styles, different kind of, and so that's all very interesting. But ultimately, unless you're doing your own thing, it's not very satisfying. And they'll just get someone else to do it. Once a TV show is up and running, it's just you're making the sausage. And shows can happen without a director very easily. You have a good DP and you have the
directs
an
itself
AD, and the actors don't listen to you anyway. And so it directs itself. And there are many examples, of people that have no idea how to direct it or directing TV shows. And the shows good. And you notice, you'll watch a show and you'll kind of go, yeah, that one was really good. It had its flow to it, and that's the direct, because TV directing, really what you have is transitions, because every TV show is going to end up in a close-up, but, so there are certain things you have, and if you can talk to an actor, that's helpful. But ultimately, I don't find it utterly satisfying, rewarding work.
Right. I remember Greg Beeman worked on Smallville with me, and he would shoot this oneer, and I go, hey, are you going to coverage now? He goes, no, it's a oneer. I'm like, okay. Why are you doing what? Don't they get mad? They're like, yeah, they want close-ups and this and that. And I'm like, but now I'm not giving that choice. This is what I want to do. And it tells the story. And now they don't have an option. They're not going to cut into the close-up because they can't. And I thought,
and then they don't ask him back.
Well, he did for some reason. He had so much balls and cared about the show.
You have to. Yeah, if you're telling
he said, "Fuck it, I'm doing it."
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I agree.
What's the if you have to look back at the one movie that you're most proud of?
Oh,
I know that's hard.
I don't know. Proud. I don't know what proud means.
Less than zero.
Well, that was a terrible experience. I did not enjoy that at all. I was in a bad place in my life. Everyone was. The script was a mess. That I didn't think that was a successful movie. And then we had to reshoot so much of it because it was right in the middle of Nancy Reagan just say no era suddenly. And, we had scenes with flushing cocaine down the toilet. And because the studio executives realized, oh, this movie is being made about our kids. No, we can't have that, and there's not a word of the book in the movie and stuff. So, that movie particularly didn't, I thought Bobby Downey was great, but he was also, a little too close to home for him in that moment in time.
So he wasn't that easy because he was going through all that stuff.
Well, he was lovely, but he was just going through whatever he was going through. He's always been a very sweet guy,
Yeah.
So, but no, that movie I didn't find. I have to say I have great affection for Weekend at Bernie's. I think somehow Weekend at Bernie's holds up.
I love Jonathan Silverman.
Yeah, he's great. Johnny's a great guy.
He's great. And you guys look like he's so much fun in that movie. I remember when it came out, it was just so hilarious and so original.
Yeah, no, I think it's great.
When's the last time you've seen it? And have you watched it with any of the with your kid?
Well, I can shamelessly tell you that I was in a hotel about a month ago, and I flipped on the TV, and I went into the bathroom I turned, and I started hearing this voice. I'm like, what is that? And I went back in, and it was me in Weekend at Bernie's, and I watched it was the boat scene of chasing Dan. So I watched like the last 20 minutes of the movie. And
Did you smile?
Dude, I not only was smiling, I was sitting there reciting the lines back to the TV alone in my hotel room, and I can't remember ever watching a movie of mine like that, ever. And it was and I thought it was absolutely hysterical. I thought it was great.
I guarantee I'd put everything I have on it that every actor has sat back by themselves and watched something of themselves and just had a smile or a moment.
Oh, yeah, but for decades, I could never watch any of my movies ever. But it was either incredibly narcissistic or healthy when I was watching and laughing at myself, thinking how funny I was.
I love that. Is there a song from any of those? Do you hate hearing those songs when they come up?
No, they're great. I mean, I hear that.
Like OMD. Well, not OMD. It was
yeah. And that from Pretty in Pink, that song.
Right.
Yeah. And then the one I seem to hear in the supermarket or wherever all the time is the Mannequin one. Nothing's going to stop us now.
They used it on the Skeleton Twins with Kristen Wiig and everything. You don't want to hear that song?
No, I mean, I just thought it always was such a cheesy song, but people love it.
Look into your eyes.
And what song I heard recently, I hadn't heard in years, was the St. Elmo's Fire, Man in Motion song, which is just such a cringe, you know, as my son would say.
I can feel the new.
Yeah. And that's just so of a moment, you know. Some of those songs have really endured and like become part of the popular cultural canon, you know. But that one, I think, is just such like of that moment that it just brings you right back.
Yeah, and there was the other one. Oh, the Psychedelic Furs.
Yeah.
I love them. I still go see them. Isn't she?
Yeah, no, I thought that was terrific. Actually.
Yeah, they have a lot of great songs, actually. In fact, they're going to be in Florida, and I just told my uncle he has got to go see them. They're really fun in concert. They've got like 6 or 7 songs. People just think it's like Pretty in Pink and stuff, but they have more than that. You've been sober since
2002, July 3rd, 2002. Yeah, so 20 years, good 30 years.
Do you ever miss it? Have you ever thought about, I'm going to have a drink? I can do this. I can have one drink.
Well, I certainly never think that. I mean, I think once you're, you know, a pickle, you can't ever become a cucumber again. And I see my obsessive and compulsive addictive qualities in other aspects of my life. But no, you know, I mean, do I miss it? No. I mean, I have so much because of it. Yes, because I stopped drinking and doing drugs, my life is infinitely better. But it itself, having been sort of afflicted, if you want to use that word, or blessed with alcoholism, it is the foundation from which everything brings forward. So I'm so grateful. I'm grateful, yes, to have stopped drinking and been in recovery, but I'm grateful for it itself because it is, you know, what's that old Greek line? The cracked vase lasts longest in a certain way. Everything comes from that nugget of, you know, and it was a terrible several years, and it, you know, I let it ruin my career, and, you know, all sorts of things, and I hurt people that I loved, but I look back on it and I carry it every day as like that. What a blessing it is to not just recover, yes, of course, but that it itself, that I am an alcoholic, it was a huge blessing. Was there one? They always say when you hit rock bottom. I had a situation where I was like, "This is the moment where you stop." Was there that, or was there just kind of a progression, and you're like, "I got it. This has got to stop." Well, I luckily I wasn't able to function. So I couldn't pretend that it wasn't utterly consuming my entire life. So, but I did have a moment. Yeah, I had a moment when I was in a hotel. I came out to LA to do, I don't even know what for to do, but I was at the Peninsula Hotel because I was in a grandiose phase of blowing money, you know. So I'd expend lots of money so people wouldn't think there was something wrong, you know what I mean? So I was in there, and I remember being up all night having emptied my minibar, and I heard a voice say, Andrew, you do whatever you want. I'm tired. And it freaked me out. I like literally was looking under the couch and like, who just said that? And, you know, that just cut through to me. And I made a call then, and I went and got help. So it was just sort of a moment, you know, one of the few things I've had in my life, gifts I've been able to recognize moments when they happen to me. When I first started acting at 15, when that moment we talked about, and that was another one where I just sort of recognized that. And I said, now, you know, the call for help can come in a whisper.
Wow, that's incredible that you heard that, or subconsciously you heard that, or whatever it was. I did hear that, and I consider myself very blessed in that it was lifted from me. It was just lifted from me, and I consider some kind of grace happened to me. And I'm not a religious person in any way, but I do feel some kind of, because I have proof of it in my life. There's no reason why I should at all. There's no reason why I shouldn't still be drink or be dead by now. Certainly, if I drank the way I did, there's no. And so I just think grace happened in my life, whatever that means. I don't even know what that means, and it's my obligation to sort of honor that. Yeah, you're so open and honest, man. This is, it's awesome. It's freaking awesome. Thank you for doing that. This is called ShitTalkin with Andrew McCarthy. This is fast, rapid fire. It's the end. It's my top tier patrons. They're awesome. Thanks for supporting the show. Patreon.com/inside you, and you can just rapid fire. Okay. If you feel like answering it like a little longer, feel free. You don't have to be like, yes. Kelly S., what's your favorite scene to film on the set of St. Elmo's Fire? Bongos?
Bongos.
Bongos.
Which I thought, actually, when it was finished, I thought, well, I just ruined my career.
Is that what you thought?
Well, it's what I said to the DP. And I said, boy, that was a career ender. And he said, I think that was a career maker, son. And he was right.
Kathy Joe, what's one of your favorite memories of working with John Hughes?
He used to show up, because he didn't direct it. Everyone thinks he directed. He used to show up around lunchtime. He'd sashay in with a little boombox, and he'd play us little snippets of music and say, what'd you think of that? What do you think? And that he was creating the soundtrack. and he was listening to what we were saying. Because that's what Hughes did. He paid he on not only on screen, in real life, he honored, like he respected kids.
Super Sam, what drew you to the role of The Resident? Watching your character struggle to balance with his addiction while also needing the drugs to perform his job was incredible.
It was fun to act again. They asked me, and I said, "Oh, I haven't acted in ages. Let's do that. It'd be fun." And
scary?
No, not at all. It felt like, there's the joke about two fish swimming in the ocean, and one passes the other and says, "Ain't the water fine today?" And the other says, "What water?" I mean, if that's what it felt like for me. It just felt like breathing to me. Going back to it, I really enjoyed it.
Jessica B., of all the TV shows you've directed, which one was your favorite and why?
I loved doing Orange is the New Black at the beginning because it was a very exciting time. It was like they were inventing, Netflix they were the company that mailed you DVDs. And you know what I mean? And they're making the show, and like when they said it was going to be streaming, I went, okay, cool. What channel's that on? I couldn't grasp that. And then when they told me it was going to be, they were going to put them all on in one night. I remember sitting in the producer's office when I heard that, and I said, well, that's the stupidest idea I ever heard. And, I was right again. And it just changed the way, we tell stories now. So that early on was very exciting.
Nathan J., we kind of answered this. Is James Spader an intimidating person to work with?
No, James is delish. If you don't know what you're doing, he'll eat you alive. But that's true of so many talented people. They don't suffer fools. While I was on the set, we were laughing, and one guy came up and said, what were you guys like back in the day? And James just looked at him and said, we're exactly the same, only now we're more so. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck that means, but yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. Stone H, last question. Did you get to keep any props from Weekend at Bernie's? One of your all-time favorites, or have you ever kept any props? My question.
I did when I was young. I used to keep props, one thing from each show, but I don't remember anything I have from Bernie.
Oh man, this has been awesome. Walking with Sam is out. It will be out.
It is out. Yeah,
it is out.
Yeah,
May 9th it came out.
Yeah.
So this is New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
You know I care about it because I talked about it because it's so, I want to learn things and how you deal with family members. And I just think it's a beautiful journey, and I can't wait to read this. Just what I've read about it and the interviews and things like that, and what you've told me, it's a must read. You got to do it. And also you have the Brat Pack documentary
that'll be late fall probably.
Late fall. You directed that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's late fall. So I'm definitely, that's going to be a success. Everybody and their mother wants to watch that.
Well, of a certain generation, I think it has certain, immediate appeal, and we'll see.
What else do you want to do? What else do you want to direct more? Do you want to write more? Are there more books to come?
I'm supposed to be writing a pilot for Sony, but once the strike's over, we'll get to that. But I just like to, make stuff. So I just keep making stuff.
What about this is it. What about today, in today's world, when you look back and the movies and the time and the movies that were being made, the blockbusters, even the Star Wars and all these things, when you look at the geography now of the movies that are being made, do you like what's happening? Do you think it's too much? Are there too many streaming platforms? Do you get lost in like what the hell is going on? There's just so many options. It's like this menu that it just never ends.
I think it's all kind of fantastic, I mean, I think there's so many different rabbit holes for people to fall down. When I was, the thing about the Brat Pack, to go back to that, it was a very unified youth culture. There was one thing. So everyone knew the Brat Pack. That's why every one of that. Now there are a million little things. So there isn't that kind of unified thing. But I think it's fantastic now, all the different stuff that's going on in different avenues. And, the first thing I ever heard when I came into show business was, oh, it's so hard now. It's so hard. You should have been here a few years ago when it was the tours. Oh, now it's so, and all I've ever heard is how hard it is.
Always
and anybody that says that to me, I just go, okay, thanks, Sharon. I'm not at all interested in hearing anything you have to say. You know what I mean? Don't tell me how hard it is. It's just like, it's always been hard. No, but it's always been hard. It'll always be hard.
Yes.
Go do your thing and shut up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the perfect way to end. Do your thing and shut up. Thanks for being on here. This was awesome, man.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. What can you say? Can't say much other than great guest.
Yeah.
Great guest. I was a little nervous because he's an icon. It's like an 80s icon that but he's done so much. He's directing, he's writing books, he's just doing it. And I love that people are following their passion. And It doesn't matter what you've done. It's a matter of like what you're doing for yourself. You know what I mean? You could be a big star and all that stuff, but if that's all you got, if you don't have something on the side, the passion, Ryan, you have something on the side?
A passion on the side of this?
Yeah.
No, this is it. This
Passion
is
of the Christ.
This is it.
No. Do you have like, you play guitar?
I play guitar. I'm in several sports rec leagues now. Dodgeball, kickball, soccer.
Oh, you're doing it.
Softball. Yeah.
Those are passions. Those are fun.
Yeah. They are fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy them. It's nice to get out.
Keep doing them. Big shout out to the top tier patrons. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Andrew McCarthy for coming on the podcast, brother. And these are the top tier patrons, patreon.com/inside you. These are the guys that give a lot, and I shout out their names every episode. And they get packages and YouTube lives and many more awesome things, perks inside of you. Patreon.com/inside. Here we go. Shout outs. Nancy.
D?
Leah.
Oh, no.
Leah?
S. F.
Leah K this time.
What?
Leah K.
Leah K?
It's not. It's got to be Leah S. Because I think she messaged me about that.
Unless
Leah S. Leah Stubbs.
Unless she got married.
We need you. No, she's already married.
All right.
2 kids.
Again?
Little Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
Remember her?
Mm-hmm.
She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yukiko. Yukiko's still with us. Yukiko, I miss you. Jill.
E.
Correct. Brian.
H.
Nico.
P.
Robert.
B.
Jason.
W.
Sophie.
M.
Raj.
C.
Joshua.
D.
Jennifer.
N.
Stacy.
L.
Jamal.
F.
Janelle.
B.
Mike.
E.
Eldan.
Supremo.
Eldan.
Supremo.
99.
More.
Santiago.
M.
Hi, Santiago. Chad.
D.
No.
W.
What? What'd you say?
It's a W.
W. W is correct. Leanne.
P.
Can't forget Leanne P. Maya.
P.
Maddie.
S.
Correct. Belinda.
N.
Dave.
H. E.
No,
H.
you're right.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, it's Dave. I love Dave.
It's only Dave, isn't it?
Dave's a really good guy. He's got a very subtle way of speaking, and I like him a lot.
It's only Dave.
Sheila.
G.
Brad.
D.
Ray.
H.
Ha-da-da. Tabitha.
T.
Tom.
N.
Talia.
M.
Betsy.
D.
I miss Betsy. I always say that. Angel.
M.
Rhiannon.
C.
Corey.
L.
No.
D. F.
Corey.
N.
Sounds like Corey. Corey
C.
K.
K.
Corey K. Dev.
Nexon.
Michelle.
P.
Just think Canadian.
Fur.
Michelle.
A.
Hey, it's correct. Jeremy.
Irons. C.
Jeremy C. Bogan. Brandy.
It's a stretch.
Brandy.
Brandy D.
Correct. Yevor.
Vor.
Joey.
C.
M.
M.
Eugene and
Leah.
Corey.
L.
Heather.
H.
Heather. Remember I always say this actress? Heather.
L.
Correct. Jake. Actor.
From State Farm.
Jake. His father was Gary.
B.
Angela.
B.
F. Mel.
C.
S. Caroline.
Mel C was one of the Spice Girls?
Caroline. Oh,
Caroline
R.
R.
And then just remember after R comes S. So Christine S. Caroline R. Christine S. Eric H. Shane R. Andrew M. Tim L. Oracle. Amanda R. Jen B. Kevin E. Stephanie K. Jarrell. Jammin J. Leanne J. Luna R. Mike F. Stone H. Brian L. Aaron R. Kendall L. Meredith I. Kara C. Jessica B. Kyle F. Marisol P. Andrew M. Estevan G. Kaylee J. Brian A. Ashley F. Marion Louise L. Romeo the Band. Veronica Q. Frank B. Jen T. and Nikki L. Couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you so much for the support and love. I just message back everybody, by the way, who just joined Patreon. I do it hopefully every month, and I message you guys. So there you go. That's it. Thanks for listening. Another great episode next week. If you thought this was great, I did. From the Hollywood Hills in California, I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I'm Ryan Tails from Hollywood, California.
Give a wave. We love you guys. Thank you. Be good to yourself. I'll see you next week.